Hi, and welcome to our Contemporary American Foreign Policy Fireside Chat. And we'll say a few things about the books we've been reading, and then a little bit about the paper. So I've been enjoying your posts about the books. I've responded to some, and others I've read. And I want to say a couple things in particular about the more recent books, but really in some sense about everything. I asked you about the Hunt book, what if you thought he had an ideological disposition of his own, and you all seemed to either say couldn't tell or somewhat liberal. I think what I meant to be getting at was, what are the assumptions that someone brings with them when they write or analyze something like foreign policy? And it's not that they're pursuing a particular ideological agenda, but rather they bring with them their own values and the assumptions that follow from those values. And it's interesting to me, I think, the way, especially the way you've all seem to have read Gaddis. We've had 3 books in a row now, Seven Sins, Ideology and Foreign Policy, and then Surprise, Security, and the American Experience, that all 3 seem to have grievances with or talk about the shortcomings of American foreign policy and the conduct of the United States in the world. And I think that in some degree must reflect ideological dispositions. So that's why I asked you regarding Seven Sins, could some of those be reframed as virtues? And so the idea that, as some of you pointed out in various posts, that the United States is looked to for its leadership role or is expected to be a leader can't be coupled very clearly with isolationism. And leadership obviously means that you make decisions, and some of those are going to be disagreeable to the people that you're being led by those decisions. So there's some practical trade-offs that may have values implications or moral implications or ideological implications. And so I'm not thinking, oh, we could discern which way these people would vote, although we probably could. But rather thinking in a more intellectual sense, what assumptions do they bring to bear that may not even be clear to them, let alone that they're explicating in the writing and that they're giving to you in the reading. So I think about Gaddis, for instance, and his observation that we followed a certain kind of trajectory of American foreign policy making until the 1940s, unilateral hegemony seeking and so on. That changed from 1945 to let's say 2000, and then we've now reverted to that original pattern. To render that a good or bad thing might reflect a particular disposition. To observe that it's happened is one thing. To say we ought to go one way or the other is to perhaps reflect a disposition toward how these things should work, and what your moral preferences are. I don't know that what I think of anybody's particular ideology. I did think of Michael Hunt as something of the left, because as I do obviously Locke Johnson, because these people are offering critiques of American foreign policy, and we tend to lump that into left-leaning category because we think of conservatives as basically apologists for American foreign policy. Now that doesn't really work or hold. Certainly staunch conservatives in the 1960s were very critical of American foreign policy because it was inadequately hawkish, I suppose is the only word to use, best word, easiest word to use. So my thinking I can render people based on what they've written is something of a thumbnail and a reductionist approach anyway. But it seems to me that the critiques are strong, and the grievance against, or the argument against, things like American exceptionalism and a special American role are reflective of a value judgment that tends to lean to the left of our political spectrum. That being said, I think I mentioned Samuel Huntington in a post of my own. I do think it's quite interesting, and I wonder how our authors would respond to his article in which he observes that the United States is a great disappointment in terms of how it's conducted itself in the world, but it's only a disappointment because it's something of a hope. There's nothing to be disappointed in if you're not hopeful that it would have been better. I mean, I don't think anybody's disappointed in North Korea because you expect them to be basically what they are. But we profess a certain kind of commitment about justice and democracy and fairness and so on. And we don't live up to that, is Huntington's point. But it's only the fact that we profess that and think that we are, or at least seem to be eagerly and earnestly trying to achieve that makes us a disappointment that we haven't. If we didn't profess that, if we didn't intend to meet that kind of goal, then we wouldn't be disappointing it. We wouldn't be failing to meet that goal, so it wouldn't be a disappointment. So I don't know if I've overread ideology into our authors, but I think they obviously do have disappointments. They might be as well grieved, ideologically speaking. I'm not sure. I'd like you to remember to think about this as we approach the unfinished 20th century. In particular, I do also think that the 4 books we've read so far are trying to establish or lay out the historical patterns. You notice that Gaddis lays out a trajectory that we have followed. Hunt does as well. And Shell will for unfinished 20th century. Oh, fire went out, sorry.